All right, I'm going to rant for a little bit. I got the JoJo here. I want to rant about a specific subject, and that is the subject of power. Power and getting offended. Why do I put those two things together? Well, I use the illustration of a church, of a school, and suppose there's a big meeting of all the parents and all the teachers and the staff.
A PTA?
PTA, for instance, right? But it's bigger than the PTA. Let's say it's the whole school, right?
Okay. The whole district?
Whole district, let's say, right? Big old group of parents and teachers and kids and staff and all that stuff, right? And they're discussing the subject of kids hugging in school, right? And they ask people for their opinions, right? And just completely hypothetically, I know this would never happen, but let's just say that two people went up on stage because everyone else was really, really shy and didn't want to talk. And they said, anybody who has a strong feeling about kids hugging in school, please come up on stage, right?
Yeah.
So you have two moms. One mom says, I really, really think that hugging is good for the kids. Science proves that it's good to the kids. You know, they feel more bonded. They feel more connected. It helps, manage depression, pain, and, just, it's a natural feeling. You see your friend, you want to hug them, right? The other parent says, no, other kids have, touched my child inappropriately, and I feel offended, and I think that we should make it a rule that, if you want to hug outside of school, that's fine, but school is just for learning. I don't think that kids should be able to hug. I feel very offended and my child feels very offended when someone comes inside of our circle. This is my boundary, this is my circle. Let's just make the rule that no children, including my own child, should hug. That way, nobody ever gets offended. Nobody ever has to worry. Everyone has to stay in their own little things, right? You don't get in my circle. I don't get in your circle, and that's just. I think that we should do that. Who do you think among those two parents is going to get the people to support them?
The people, I would say, in my opinion, whenever somebody doesn't want something, then they don't do it. So just say, so if I'm pretty sure they would want to support not hugging, because if someone doesn't feel comfortable around that, they want to support them. But even if more people, I think even if more people voted on kids hugging, then they would still choose the alternative, because probably just because they want their kids to feel safe or something.
Exactly. Remember, what was the principle of the founding fathers that they said?
I don't know.
Never trade your...
Oh, yeah, never trade your freedom for security.
Because otherwise you will lose both.
Oh.
But that's what we do. And you're right, son. I shouldn't say you're right. To be honest, I don't know. But I have a feeling and again, maybe my feeling's wrong. I'm more than willing to accept it. But I'm noticing this pattern more and more and more, where even though maybe in their hearts people might feel like the parent who's saying that we should hug, it feels good, I feel like what people are actually going to vote for and what people are going to support more is the parent that says, no, let's keep our children protected. And I think this idea of protecting people's feelings goes so far in our psyche. It goes so far into our lives that it gets to the point where just a normal conversation, right? I'm having a conversation with you, right?
Yeah.
Let's say you are really enjoying the conversation, and I started enjoying the conversation, but then at a certain point, I don't want to have the conversation anymore, right? So you're wanting to continue the conversation, which is a feeling. I'm not wanting to continue the conversation. That's a feeling. Two different feelings. Now, ideally, people say all feelings matter. But what I'm noticing is that that's not actually true. All feelings don't matter. And all feelings don't have the same value. It's the feelings of being offended that always have the more powerful play, because all that person has to do is say, you know what, I don't want to have this conversation anymore. I'm not enjoying this. I'm bored. I'm done with this conversation. And just by saying that, they assume all the power. And there's nothing anybody else can do. The other person be like, but I really, really want to have the conversation. That's a feeling. But the other person's feeling is so much more powerful. It's like 1,000,000 times more powerful. And so it wins. It wins and it wins and it wins every single time. All you have to do in life is say,
No.
What?
All you have to do is just say no, and then
No, or I'm offended, or I don't enjoy this conversation, or I'm bored. And you assume all the power. You literally take all the power away from your friends or from whoever you're talking to. You have all the power now. And it's an interesting tool that I see people use all the time. And I guess maybe because I've never wanted to have more power than somebody, I feel comfortable in my own skin. I don't want to steal that away from somebody. When someone really wants to talk about something, I let them talk. But if I wanted to make them feel really, really tiny, all I have to do is be like, you know what, I'm bored with this conversation. I don't want to have this conversation. Or, you know what, you offended me by saying that, by having that opinion. And now I have all the power. I took all that power away from you. And there's literally nothing you can do. What can you say when I say I'm offended? Oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to say that, right? Too bad, I'm still offended now. It's like, what can I do? I can't. Nothing. I mean, no more power, right? And it's just an interesting dynamic that people do. It's an interesting manipulation, and it's an interesting desire that people have for power. And I know it's not always vicious, it's not always bad, it's not always like, just because someone says I no longer want to have this conversation, or I'm bored, or you offended me, it's not that they're an evil person. I think some people have their power taken away from them, and so they're trying to regain that power. Have you heard of this term, setting boundaries, setting proper boundaries, right? I think certain people, maybe their parents or friends, or maybe they always feel like they have to stay in a conversation when they don't want to be in a conversation, right? And they're forced to have a conversation. They too feel like their power was taken away from them, right? So they have to make that clear boundary. They have to regain their power. They have to say, you know what? I don't want this. And now they've regained their power, right? So it's an interesting dynamic of like understanding that when you talk to people. And hey, if you ever want to have the power, bam, you have it right there. All you have to say is, I'm done with this conversation, and you've regained the power. But what's interesting to me is when people do that, and it's like, oh, well, that's interesting. Like they just like took all that power away from me. Like I don't have it anymore. Like that's interesting. And I don't know. Maybe I don't know. It's just an interesting phenomenon. I was gonna say something else about it too. I had this really, really profound thing to say, but I felt like I had to introduce all those things. Do you have any opinions on it, or are you bored of this conversation?
I'm not.
No, you can. That's the thing. You can say that. Maybe that's the other thing too that I wanted to say, is that maybe this is it. The thing that people are really afraid of is like I always want to be able to know something, even if it hurts. Like the thing about Shirley, the reason why she's such a conundrum for me is a conundrum is like a something that's really confusing, something that I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to break crack that egg, like to get into the center and figure out how her brain works, right? It's like when someone, like when she ignores you, right? When you're having a conversation, she's essentially saying that you're not valuable enough for me to listen to, right? I mean,
yeah.
Wouldn't you agree, right?
Yeah.
You're not that valuable, right? Mm-hmm. Now, the first thing, our first initial gut reaction, would be like, well, that was offensive. Like, why are you like ignoring me, right? Like, no one wants to be ignored. That's like a terrible feeling, and you feel like you're being disrespected, right? But another interesting thing is also happening. She's being honest with you about who she is and what she wants. And it's interesting because people get mad at each other because they're dishonest, because they don't show their true colors. But when someone does show their true colors, like what Shirley did, they get mad at them too. So the people are mad both ways. They're mad when you're honest, and they're mad when you lie. So what's a person supposed to do if Shirley or anybody else is sincerely feeling...
Wait. And if you don't answer them, then they're going to find that disrespectful.
Exactly. Good point, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? So Shirley is essentially being honest with you when she ignores you, because she honestly devalues you. Now, being devalued hurts. So of course your honest emotion is going to be like, well, this sucks. Like, you're mean. I don't want to be around you because you're disrespecting me, right? But those are two honest emotions. So why should there be any anger when people are just being honest? I think it's pride. I think it's pride, and I think it's ego. And I think that we haven't learned how to properly communicate our feelings. What do you think?
I don't know. I just saw Micah in the movie.
And now you're like totally distracted. Now you're like, okay, now I'm done with this conversation. It's okay. I'll end it right there.